I'm Chris,
And I'm Kiley. And this is Redefining Resilience,
where we explore what it means to build a resilient lifestyle
so you can thrive in any and every situation. On this episode of Redefining Resilience, we're talking all about
diet.
Nutrition.
Yes, nutrition.
I hate the word diet.
So do I. It's got a lot of negative connotation, but if you look at the definition of diet, it's just the tracking of caloric intake. It's not anything negative. It's
Really?
Just, yeah.
Huh.
Diet's just like a measuring tool. Not a measuring tool, but like how you accumulate data. Diet.
Interesting.
It's just got a negative connotation because we view diet as restriction.
I view it as failure. Because honestly, anytime I've ever gone on a diet, it was like some sort of like fad that really didn't produce any kind of sustainable results.
But why? Why don't you think it produced sustainable results?
Because the habit changes that were required to adhere to said diet, right, were so far from my norm that it just was too much habit change all at once. And so I just reverted back to my norms. Well,
that's it for today's episode. You just accumulated it all at once. See you tomorrow. No, that's perfect, though. It's too big of a change.
Yeah.
Wow, I think that is the number one reason. What is it? 96% of all New Year's resolutions fail?
Probably.
Because New Year's resolutions tend to be an accumulation of a lot of goals inside of one. And it's super far-fetched. Well, I want to lose 80 pounds. I want to bench press 400 pounds. I want to do whatever. Oh, by the way, I've never been in a gym and I don't watch my diet now.
Yeah.
So to go from never watching your diet to losing 80 pounds, the distance between your current reality and that one is so big.
Yeah.
You just stop. The hill's too big, mountain's too big.
Well, and the other thing that comes to mind is typically when I go on a diet is to achieve a specific goal. Once you hit the goal, you stop doing the things that got you to the goal. So inevitably, like I reached my goal weight, but then I stopped doing the things that got me to my goal weight. And I started thinking like, oh, now that I'm here, I just have to maintain and I'll be just fine, right?
Isn't that fascinating though? Take that same premise of realizing there needs to be a change or finding a goal, realizing you have to change several items in your life, applying those changes, seeing the results, and then stopping. Imagine if you did that with work.
I see salespeople doing it all the time. Like we think that we need to hustle and grind to get the quota, and then once you get some substantial success, you stop doing the activity that got you the success. I see this all the time in sales.
So you're telling me that the fitness world is not too far removed from the real world?
No, not at all. I mean, I think it's all how you do one thing is how you do everything.
How you do one thing is how you do everything. Long pause, dramatic pause. That shit is fantastic. That should be the mantra for everything.
Well,
everyone.
Because the process by which you follow to attain your results is not a straight line. It's not continued progress. It's ups and downs, and you don't get prepared for the lack of dopamine that you're experiencing along the way, which if we're not feeling the reward chemicals and seeing the progress or feeling the progress, our brain is just going to tell us, hey, you know what? Stop wasting your time on this because you're not getting results. Like, I think that's the biggest challenge when it comes to dieting. And I hate that word, but I think when you make some changes to your nutrition, you've got to be able to focus on things other than the scale, because sometimes the scale isn't always telling you the truth. You might be losing inches, not pounds. Especially if you're weight training too, the scale tends to go up when you start building muscle, and you just are focused on one specific thing, one specific measurement of progress, but maybe you're making progress in more areas. I don't know if you see that a lot with clients you work with, but I feel like I have struggled with that personally because, as females, we want to see the scale go down.
Yeah.
And so I look at other things like, okay, how do my clothes fit? Have I taken any progress pictures? I legitimately will measure my body to make sure that I'm not just looking at the scale and making quick assumptions that, hey, what I'm doing is not working.
So you just only have one data point if you look at the scale, and that's a heavily and easily manipulated data point. So if we look at the scale alone, how much you consumed the night before, whether or not you have regular bowel movements, your hormone levels. I mean, there's like a bunch of variables that go along to it or along with it. Current stress level, it will dictate how much cortisol and adrenaline you have in your system, which will dictate how much water you're holding, which will dictate how much food you're holding, how much calories your body thinks it has to hold because it's in fight or flight, which will manipulate the scale. You just need more data points. So we have to remove the emotional connection between progress in our body and reality. You cannot emotionally be involved with each pound. It'll kill you. It'll literally ruin your ability to make decisions. That's when people get in the analysis paralysis. When they open up the refrigerator, they're like, well, I got to eat healthy, so I need the healthiest option, the one I absolutely hate, because, hey, the food you hate, that's good food, right? Generally, I fucking hate spinach, but hey, Popeye got strong, or it's healthy. So we'll eat that for a little while, but because it's fucking miserable, eventually we'll end up binging on something else. So we just need to remove the emotional connection between food and our outcome, between training and our outcome, and understand that this is not something that is a finite amount of time. This is forever. While you're on this planet, you have to monitor your intake. You have to monitor your output. It has to happen in order to be a productive human. That's the kicker. We're trying to be the most productive human we can be. And if this was a sales conversation, you wouldn't say, monitor outgoing messages and incoming messages for 6 months and then just go for it. You'd say, absolutely not. The entire time you do this, the entire time you're employed here, monitor all of it, all the time, because that's the only viable amount of data or the only viable way to make decisions based on data. Get as much data as you can.
Well, and I think the hard part of nutrition is there's a few hard parts, I think. One, our brain is hardwired to want things that are not healthy for us. So we're working against our biology here. The second thing is that, they say it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle.
That's like my least favorite comment.
I know. It's like so frustrating, but it's so fucking true at the same time because truthfully, like you don't ever get to a place where you can take your foot off the gas when it comes to your nutrition because it requires so much constant intention for the rest of your life. If you want to live a long, healthy life and not have health issues, I think a lot of the health issues that we are experiencing as a society right now stem from our lifestyle. So truly, it is a lifestyle. And if you're looking at this as a temporary fix to a problem of being overweight, it's never going to work. It's not going to sustainably work.
Well, that's how we land with these problems like a morbid obesity rate going through the roof, autoimmune disorders flying out every direction right now. There's more people with autoimmune disorders than I've ever had them ever. Behavioral issues, things like that. Like we have a lot of things going on that stem from a poor lifestyle, but they also stem from the lack of ability to stay consistent. Meaning, if we are not consistent with healthy food, we are consistent with unhealthy food. So like Let's make that very clear. We are choosing to be consistent with unhealthy food. So we have a choice to make. So I don't want to be mean about this, but at the end of the day, when you go to the grocery store and you're walking down the cereal aisle of Meijer, there's no way that you can pick up a box of Trix or Fruity Pebbles or Golden Grams and say this is a better decision than something else. It's just not. Is it easier? Yes. Is it cheaper? Not so much anymore. Is it easier on the brain? Of course. That food is genetically built to give you happiness, to make you feel good when you eat it. But because we live in the day and age of super data, you don't have a choice anymore. You cannot claim ignorance anymore. There's just no way. You can look at that stuff and say, this is a better choice than something else. So the rule of thumb for everything in life is the most consistent stimulus wins. So when we choose to live unhealthy because it's easier or whatever reason, we're choosing to be unhealthy. We just have to view it at the 30,000 foot view like that. There's no other way to do it. Because otherwise you just get buried. And then you feel overwhelmed, and then it's just like a constant snowball cycle.
Well, and I think it's important to realize that most of us probably didn't look at it from a place of, I'm not choosing to be unhealthy. I'm just choosing to go with what I want instead of what my body needs.
Yeah, but why do you do that? You do that because you've been told that you should pay attention to your body and your wants. You deserve this. It's snack time. You deserve this. You worked hard. Treat yourself.
I mean,
that mentality has been shoved down your throat ever since you were a child.
It's an instant gratification culture. And we have to understand that a lot of our habits with food were established before we were even 8 years old. So I don't know, what you grew up eating exactly, but for the most part, I would say my mom made most of our meals, and at the time, we were eating foods that didn't have a shitload of preservatives and a shitload of chemicals and weren't completely manufactured with fake ingredients. And now the quality of ingredients has changed significantly in food manufacturing. And now we have to question every ingredient that we are looking at. So it's gotten much, much harder, I think, to eat clean, if you will, than it was years ago before we were dumping all of these preservatives and artificial flavorings into our foods. So I think that's part of the challenge, is like, not only are we struggling to make good choices, but then when we think we're making good choices, as it turns out, half this shit isn't really even good for us that we've been told is, quote, healthy. They have, I think on a box of Cheerios, there's like something on there about heart health.
The
Cheerios,
American Heart Association stamp.
Yeah, it's not healthy. It's not good for your heart.
No.
It's processed food that has very little nutritional value. And so your body is having to work much harder to get rid of it. And it's not getting any benefit other than giving you a, quote, energy, right, from the calories you're consuming. But it's like empty calories.
So empty calories meaning the nutritional value of said item is almost zero. You're not getting any good food out of the food. You're getting processed stuff, food item. If you look at the back of, I used to eat this all the time when I was a kid, shredded jalapeno cheese.
Interesting.
I would put it, hot pepper cheese, I would put it on a frying pan, the shredded cheese.
Yeah.
And let it heat up, and it would turn into like this crispy little
chip
cheese cracker. And it was awesome. I'd make like 10 of them and just snack on them all day. It says preserved cheese meal is what's in it. There's no real cheese. It's
Ew.
literally just fake food.
Well, I'm pretty sure American cheese is just manufactured fake cheese.
It is, but so here's the concept, right? Or the thing I think about a lot, like, is this big evil manufacturing company trying to poison everybody and kill everybody because they're part of the Illuminati. And there might be a slim chance, but we're talking very slim. These are businesses that have been around for 80 plus years or more, and they're trying to turn a profit. They're going to do all they can to turn the biggest profit possible. And the only reason it exists is because we choose to purchase it. The market we live in is so fucking cool because if you don't buy it, it goes away.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for them to purchase it or build it. They don't build it and then say, first off, I say build it because they literally build that food. It's not real. So they build it, which is crazy. And they put it on the market and we purchase it. So stop purchasing it and it will go away.
Yeah.
We drive the market. The market is driven by the consumer. So,
well, and you can even see that because even at Meijer, there's a very small section with gluten-free bread. That section has actually increased in shelf space over the last few months.
It has.
Which is great to see. However, even when it's gluten-free, you got to read the ingredients because a lot of times the ingredients are not great alternatives to products that have gluten in them. So, all right. So let's take a step back here. What are some key concepts that if we are trying to level up our nutrition and eat clean and fuel our body properly, what are some things that we need to be doing or concepts that we need to know?
So the original, this is where this next thing I'm going to say was birthed from. There used to be a concept that there are no bad calories, and it's all about input versus output. Meaning, as long as I hit my caloric intake or macros, it doesn't matter how I got my macros because my expenditure is at X level. So I work out 4 times a week, 3 times a week, 1 day a week, whatever. The problem with that mathematical equation is we didn't take into account nutrient density, meaning does the food actually have nutrients in it? Is it actual food or was it built? So the concept that I've landed on and that served us pretty well, and my daughters, and anybody I can talk to about it, is when you pick up the box, if there's something on there and you were in a spelling bee and they asked you to spell it, you would just giggle, don't buy it. If it starts with a P and it's like 27 letters, don't buy it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Yeah.
And if you have a question, how many people have a smartphone?
Google it.
Just Google that shit. Just find out. Because if you don't find out, you can't claim ignorance because it's on there and they let you see it. Mm-hmm. You just chose to ignore it. So this is where it gets frustrating for most. So you have to invest a little bit of time. And it's a hella big mountain. It feels like you're standing at the bottom of Mount Everest in a swimsuit and you're going to try to make it to the top. It's a lot. But what isn't a lot is starting with one item and saying, you know what? I love mac and cheese. I think mac and cheese is fucking awesome. Let's just try to find the healthiest mac and cheese we can find.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. Now let's continue that. We found the healthiest mac and cheese we can find. Man, I really like ham sandwiches or whatever the hell else you like. Let's find the healthiest version of that. One item at a time. You do that for 6 months, you'll have a completely different diet. You'll have removed countless preservatives, countless garbage, because you've just whittled it down one item at a time.
Yeah. Even, gosh, you look at like salad dressings.
Yeah.
I spent probably 15 minutes looking for a salad dressing that didn't have any seed oil in it.
Yeah, good luck.
I know. So here's the other thing is seed oils. Why are seed oils so bad?
So I want to give this a little bit of time, first off. And second off, I have a request. Here you have a request of you. Google how vegetable oil is made.
Like canola oil?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, just Google how it's made. It's a science experiment. There's like 17 different things it has to go through. Hot compression, cold compression. It has to go through multiple chambers. It's literally built in a lab to create what is essentially motor oil. It was originally created, vegetable oil was originally created to grease machine equipment. Now, to say like margarine's one molecule away from plastic is true, but water's one molecule away from hydrogen peroxide. So like that's not really a fair statement. So read the label, understand what's going on, and understand that if it's not a real food, as in from the earth, then you're probably going to have byproducts from eating that. Issues or things will happen by consuming said product. The farther you go away from stuff that looks natural, the more problems you're going to accumulate.
Mm-hmm.
So to view it under that kind of premise, if it eats off the earth or grows from the earth, that's your first go-to. If it is built, like put together by a human, it's probably a no-go. I mean, if you ever look up like a Chips Ahoy cookie or a potato chip, a Pringle, actually. Here's a funny thing. Do you know Pringles got sued in the 70s?
No.
Pringles got sued in the 70s because they are not a potato chip. It's a potato powder pressed into a chip form, and now they are called potato crisps. Or after the 70s, they were called potato crisps.
Ew.
Because they're not a potato chip. So a manufactured potato powder.
It does taste funky.
Yeah, pressed into a odd shape in a cylinder container. You can't pick that up and go, yeah, this is a good choice. It might taste good.
Yeah.
But it's not a good choice. So we have to start the equation in our head. Is this worth the potential problems from consuming? I love chocolate cake. I will eat a piece of chocolate cake probably once a week if I could. I think it's fucking awesome. But eventually I have to look at it and go, is this worth the potential pain or injury that's going to come from this? And it's 99% of the time, absolutely not.
Are there any other foods that we should avoid?
I think if you, quote unquote, went to war on anything, it'd be seed oils. First and foremost.
Okay, so seed oils for sure we want to stay away from. What are seed oils? What do they include?
Canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, rice bran oil, safflower oil, and grapeseed oil.
Yeah, every bag of tortilla chips that we picked up at the grocery store last week had safflower oil in them.
Yeah, that's sunflower oil.
Or sunflower oil, so some kind of seed oil. It was so hard to find a bag of tortilla chips that did not have seed oil in them. So it's in so much of our food that we don't even realize.
Flaxseed oil is another one. I mean, flax seeds are great for you. This is where this becomes an issue. Has anybody seen a flaxseed? Have you seen a flaxseed?
Yeah, I used to put them in my smoothies.
Super fucking small.
Yeah.
How many flax seeds does it take to create enough flaxseed oil?
I mean, it'd be a gazillion because they're like a poppy seed.
Exactly. What kind of process does all those seeds have to go through to extract an oil from it? You have to create an oil from it.
Yeah.
You're talking about 10 million times the amount of flax seeds you'd ever consume in a lifetime in a cup.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're wondering why we have this like massive reaction in our system and all this inflammation and all these problems. It's like your body is not even remotely prepared to take care of any of that.
Yeah.
So seed oils for sure.
What about gluten?
All right. Skip gluten, fake meat. Fake meat all day long. I will go to war with this. I think that is the most detrimental thing that's ever happened to anybody or to the human race is a fake meat product.
What do they put inside of an Impossible Burger?
It's pretty much impossible to tell. It's soybean and goofiness. All right. The Impossible Burger contains the following ingredients: soy protein, soy hemoglobin, hemi, methyl glucose, sunflower oil, coconut oil, potato protein, yeast extract, cultured dextrose, food starch modifier, salt, mixed tocopherols, and vitamins. So these are not specifics. These are subheadings of things that are inside of it. Vitamins isn't a thing. That is a group of vitamins. Basically, what we've decided to do is create something with a bunch of proteins to hold it together. Filled it with a bunch of
filler.
A bunch of filler and medicine, and said, good luck, this is great. Your body has no idea how to take care of this. None.
Yeah, it's not natural. It's not meant to digest something like that.
It says it's said to mimic the flavor, aroma, and texture of beef. Here's the deal. Skip the 37 ingredients and just eat the fucking burger.
I mean, that's what I would prefer.
Well, you got to ask yourself that legitimately write these down and then write down what's actually in a beef patty.
It's beef.
And then you even break it down to the enzymes that are in it. And then ask yourself which one sounds like a better decision.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you land morally that like killing animals is a bad thing, that's a whole separate tangent. You can go down that however hard you want to. I'm not going to fight that battle with you. Just understand you've created a whole lot of problems for yourself.
Well, you're just going to have a harder time finding the nutrients that comes from animal protein that you're going to have to get elsewhere. It's just going to be much more difficult. Not that it's impossible, but it's going to be more difficult.
And if we want to talk about killing things as a negative, how many things live in a field, a soybean field? Millions. You have to kill everything. All of it. Every mouse, every bee, every ant, every fucking snake, everything that touches that field. Every bird. Just to make a fake meat burger? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, you're still killing animals in the process, so I guess
At a furious rate.
Yeah, I guess it's not resolving that issue, but we won't go down that road. We're not here to argue
No, like I said,
veganism, but
if you want to do it, do it. That's just interesting to me.
Okay, so what about gluten though?
So, different cultures, best way I've ever heard it put is different cultures have different culture. And your system, it handles things differently. Asian people tend to handle gluten at a better rate, I guess, just because of the way they are naturally. The issue here really isn't gluten. It's high processed gluten at a rate that is so much more than our body can handle. Pretty much every allergy food-wise is going to come back to the fact that it's heavily processed. And you end up landing in this realm of, is it really gluten or is it the fact that I'm eating machine equipment? Like, I'm eating basically plastic covered in machine oil. I mean, that's the problem. It isn't the fact that we're gluten intolerant. The fact is we're machine equipment intolerant. We're not built to eat non-nutrient dense food that's made in a lab.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to really hang my hat on it. I know we went gluten-free and I feel good gluten-free, but we can also buy, what is that, amazing bread that has only 6 ingredients.
Yeah.
I feel fantastic. I'm not bloated.
Yeah.
But when we go out to eat and we eat heavily processed food or food that we don't cook ourselves, my stomach hurts instantly.
Yeah.
If we eat fast food ever, I'm fucked. Like it's running straight through me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think fast food is probably the most inflammatory to my system immediately.
Yeah.
And what I would say is some of these things, although they're simple, they're not easy because we want to be social creatures. We want to go out to eat with friends and be social. And sometimes it's just the preparation. So if you are eating out, what's the cleanest meal that you can eat when you're at a restaurant? And sometimes what I'll do is look at the menu before I go so that I'm not put in a pressure situation to make a decision, because if I'm in a pressure situation and I'm somewhere where I can smell like pizza or French fries, I'm always going to choose the pizza or the French fries. But if I go in there and I tell myself for the, 24 hours leading up to going out to eat that I'm really excited about this salad. I got a really good Asian salad when I was in Nashville. And I told myself, like, I'm really going to enjoy this salad. And we went to the same restaurant twice. So I saw the salad the first time I went and I was like, ooh, that sounds good. And then I just told myself how excited I was for that salad. So the second time we went back there, I was like, heck yeah, I'm getting the salad. And I had just built up this salad in my head. And I really didn't look at any of the other options. And the time before, I ate a burger with no bun. So, like, I'd eaten foods that I felt good about and I knew weren't going to be inflammatory to my body. And I think the one thing that, as I've become more mindful when it comes to eating, I wasn't even paying attention to how my body was responding when I ate. So I think the biggest thing you can do to help yourself is just start to pay attention. Did I just eat a meal and now I'm so tired and have afternoon drowsiness? Because that probably is a reflection of the food that I ate. When I eat a salad for lunch, I have energy throughout the afternoon. I don't have lulls. I feel good. I had decent amount of protein, like at least 20, 25 grams of protein in my lunch. And I usually feel really good and energized for the afternoon. It's when I skip lunch or I eat something that was quick but not nutritious that I feel sick. Or like I had a stomach ache last night and I chose to eat something that was not food I prepared. And it's like, well, no wonder. Now I know I'm not going to eat that again, even if it is easy.
So we just live in a really fast culture, and we live in the grind culture, work 70 hours a day and make it, just destroy yourself essentially. Live as fast as possible. But you just got to slow down. You got to do what you're talking about. I think what you said is it. However your body is reacting is data that it's sending you that you have to pay attention to. Nobody's going to be able to do that for you. So if you eat food and you feel like shit, don't eat that food again, and you won't feel like shit from that food again.
So what are some of the signs or symptoms that we might experience if we're eating a food that our body is really not appreciating?
Yeah. Brain fog is a big one.
Okay.
Nausea. So upset stomach. I call it bubble guts.
Yep.
You start,
Tummy ache.
Yeah, getting a little, got to go to the bathroom now.
Yep.
Feeling. Extreme bowel movements. Just watery bowel movements. That's a big deal. Everybody's trying to get rid of whatever's inside of you as fast as possible.
Okay, so any liquid poo is really a red flag.
It's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Huge red flag.
And I know we're talking about poop, but
It's important.
I think it's important.
Yeah, it's very, unfortunately, it's one of the questions I ask my clients every time I see them.
Yeah.
Food is energy. Calories is just a way to measure the amount of energy that's in each food item. So if you don't feel energetic after consuming the food, we have to ask questions about why. Sometimes the nutrient density is very, very heavy, like a steak will make you feel tired because it requires so much blood to digest and work through. Milk can make people feel like that. You shouldn't feel off, quote unquote. You should feel energized and happy. It should raise your mood.
Headaches also are another one.
Another really big one is joint discomfort.
Ooh.
So if you feel like you get up out of your chair after you get up out of McDonald's and your hips hurt, knees hurt, fingers hurt, first off, there's no nutritional value and things are freaking out, but it'll present itself in your joints. So.
Swelling too. I'll notice that my fingers will get puffy after I eat something.
Yep. So swelling is a defense mechanism for your body. So like when you get injured, you swell on purpose because it's flooding the area that's injured with nutrients.
Yep.
You should never swell after you eat. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty violent reaction.
How do we figure out how much food we should be getting in a given day?
Well, that's really interesting. So we spend a base amount of calories, base being a specific amount to keep the current level of muscle mass alive. That's everything in your system. That's your brain. That's your organs, because your organs are just muscles, not just your biceps, but your organs. your skin healthy, your actual muscle system alive, your skeletal system, everything operating like it should, called your basal metabolic rate, your BMR. You can test for that by using an in-body scanner. You can actually Google in-body. That's INBODY, and they will show you where to find one of them in your town.
You also can wear the wearables like a Whoop band or an Oura ring. My Oura ring tells me what my BMR is.
Yeah, that's cool. So last time I got my BMR checked, it was 3,984.
That's insane.
Not really.
Oh my God, you have 4,000 calories that you are burning just existing.
That's existing. That's laying in bed and not moving.
Yeah.
I have to consume 3,984 calories in order to keep current said muscle mass alive. Not move, but alive.
That's wild.
And then we add in movement, exercise, stress, and brain function, right? So brain function burns calories. So we have to add in on top of that based on our lifestyle. And then you say, okay, I need my BMR total plus my expenditure total. And then I can subtract from the expenditure total to be in what's called a caloric deficit. You cannot go below your BMR and be in a great state. You'll lose weight probably incredibly fast if you stay there for a while, because your body will go into a defense mode and burn muscle mass. It will eat the most nutrient dense part of itself, which is muscle. That's why if you see people that are heavily anorexic, you have a lot of bones, a lot of saggy skin, a little bit of fat, and no muscle tone, because the muscle will disappear.
Makes sense.
The body has to feed itself, and it'll cannibalize itself quickly. So your BMR plus your daily caloric expenditure, subtract a little bit out of that if you want to be in a deficit and lose weight. But it's kind of subjective to the person. I would never, and sleep at night, give anybody below a 2,000 to 2,300 calorie a day diet. Nothing below that ever. You burn too many calories. If you're an adult person, or even, 14 and up, you need to be eating 2,000 calories a day plus. You just have to. You have to be able to produce normal movement and brain function, so you have to have enough calories to do that. I don't know. North of 2,500 probably. 2,500 is a norm. The best way to do that is get your BMR. Like I said, scan in-body or Google in-body and find out where one is. A lot of places do them for free. I know they're at hospitals for free usually.
There's also a BMR calculator. If you just Google it, you'll find one online. It's not going to be as accurate, but it'll probably give you some baseline information based on your height and your weight.
It will.
Not the most accurate, though.
It's not the most accurate because the in-body scanner it's called bioelectrical impedance. It speeds up or slows down on body mass or muscle muscle mass or body fat.
So it factors in your body composition.
Yeah. Body composition is where your BMR is most important. So being larger, right, working out all the time, you have more muscle. Therefore, your BMI is higher. Mm-hmm. If you're thinner, like a marathon runner, it's much lower. So, but their caloric expenditure is much higher. So it's very subjective. So
yeah.
I can't give you like a total, but if you're an adult human and you're eating below 2,000 calories, you're making, I think, a bad decision. A very short-sighted decision. Now, if this feels like you're being punished to try to do all of this, or that you're waging a war with the food industry to do this, it is 100% because you are. The system that is built currently is not built to help you. The system you are built currently has deceived you. I'm going to read some numbers here based on whatever we found on the intranet and the government websites for the current government recommendations for human consumption. Now, these are wild, and think back to everything we just talked about and everything we have talked about. Protein intake, taking care of yourself, total caloric intake, all these things you have to monitor and take care of. And then we hear from the government that we should be eating 45 to 65% of our caloric intake of 2,000 calories should be carbs, carbohydrates. And then they did not differentiate between high processed or regular. And 20 to 35% should be fat. 10% to 35 should be protein. 10% to 35%. High into that, 35 and up, I'm down with that. Basically, what you need to do with these numbers is flip them. Flip carbs and flip protein. 45 to 65% of your diet should be protein, hands down. If you look at fats, 20 to 35%, awesome. Leave it. I think that's cool. Real fats, not engine oil, real fats. Real butter, that shit is gold, literally. Really good for you. Carbs, 10 to 35. I would even say 10 to 20. You don't really need them.
What are
need a ton.
What are some healthy carbs?
White rice. I fucking love white rice. It's like magic. It's the best.
Potatoes, sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
Legumes.
Yeah. Beans, legumes, any kind of beans you want, peas, that kind of stuff. Any kind of vegetable.
Fruits.
Yeah. Again, from the earth.
Yeah.
It's got carbs in it from the earth. Go for it, man. Even the sugars in fruit. You're talking about such a small amount of fruit or sugar that it's like negated. It doesn't matter. You'd have to eat so many strawberries in order to hurt yourself with the sugar in a strawberry that it's unreal.
Plus, it's natural sugars that our body knows how to digest.
Because it's combined with other nutrients.
Yeah.
It's combined with other nutrients. That's what has to be, that's what's so vital about that. Like pure cane sugar inside of a soft drink is not combined with any nutrients. It's combined with gases and processed items, and your body just freaks out.
Yeah.
So that being said, this is the way they broke that down. They want you to be at about 900 to 1,300 calories in carbs, 400 to 700 calories in fat, 200 to 700 calories in protein. Like we said, flip that. I want the bulk of your diet to be in protein. And here's why. I don't want to get real granular with this because it can get absolutely overwhelming. You have to think about these three macros as the building blocks for everything. This is how your body operates. Fats, carbs, and protein. Protein is not going to be an energy source. So this push to have protein in absolutely everything is cool to have the protein, but you're going to be a miserable son of a bitch if you try to just eat protein. You'll be very angry. That's why bodybuilders, when they're cutting down, are miserable. Low fat, low carb, high protein, miserable.
I'm miserable when I don't have carbs.
Yeah. That should be, that's a sign.
Yeah.
Like that's a good data point to say, hey, maybe I need some carbs. I need some energy. So if we break down protein, carbs, and fats, proteins are the bricks you're building the house with.
Okay.
That is what testosterone in your system turns into muscle mass. It's protein. Carbs and fats are the people building the house. They're utilizing the bricks to put it together. They're your energy source. So what we need to do is make sure that our combined carbs and fats, the people we put on the job site, are just above the amount of bricks we have on the job site. We want a little bit more, just in case one of these guys gets sick or whatever, if we want to use the people scenario.
Sure. That makes sense.
That you have enough energy, enough people to utilize the protein or the building blocks in your system. If we used the governmental website version of reality, we'd have a 10-to-1 ratio. We'd have an 80-to-20 actually ratio for energy to building blocks. Yeah. This is why we hold energy. This is why we have a massive obesity problem. Obesity or held fat is literally just stored energy. We have lots and lots and lots of energy. We have 80% of our diet or more of energy. So we have very low caloric output, as in going out and doing things. We have a really high energy input, and we have really low building blocks. So we're just consumed with energy. So we don't have anything to do with the amount of workers. It's like putting 10,000 workers on a job site to build a doghouse. It's pointless.
Now that makes sense.
It's the only way that it makes sense to me. So I had to make it like some kind of scenario that was logical.
So how do we lose weight? How do we lose the stored energy?
You limit the workers. You already have them. If you have a pound of body fat on you, you have stored workers. There's already guys on that
So
job
you just
site.
need more protein.
And caloric expenditure.
Okay. So
You
exercise
move more,
and protein.
Eat more protein.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Give those guys something to do.
Yeah.
The more you move around, you're getting rid of guys, right?
Yep.
So you have 100 guys on a job site. You got 15 building blocks. You got to do something with the guys. Send some of them home, i.e. go run around, work out, do something, go walk, work on a paper, do something with your brain as well, because that also burns calories.
And then add more building blocks.
And add more building blocks.
Makes sense.
Super simple equation. Right?
Okay. All right. This makes perfect sense. So what advice do you have for people who are like, yeah, I'm not working out, I'm eating kind of whatever I want or what's convenient, besides go back and listen to our meal prep episode? What advice or like starting points would you advise?
First, you got to figure out what you want.
So set a goal.
You have to figure out, because if you're happy where you are, I can't help, right? If you just don't care, you'll never change.
Mm-hmm.
There's no point in even trying. Now, if you care and you want to live a healthier life and you just don't know where to start, we're going to start with one thing. I would, above all, is just start walking 30 minutes a day. Just start moving. You have to give yourself space and time in order to understand what to do with your space and time. You have to get out of there. So put your phone down or put it in your back pocket and start a timer. I do that regularly. And just go. Just leave. Because you're going to spend 30 minutes thinking about what you're doing, 30 minutes working through logically what's going to happen next, what do you want out of this, and you're going to give yourself enough time to work through logical next steps. So that's 3.5 hours a week that you'll dedicate walking 30 minutes a day to taking care of this.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do 3.5 hours a week, 30 minutes of easy walking, it's not like a huge pace or anything, that becomes a habit. Once it becomes a habit, we can do what's called habit stacking. We can say, okay, awesome. I love this walk. This is great. Now I'm going to take one food item, like we talked about earlier, and I'm going to try to find the healthiest version of that one item. You're not going to stop walking. We're going to get that done every day. Then we're going to do that one food item, and then we're going to move on to another food item. And we're not going to do 15 at once. We're not going to get all excited and clean our refrigerator. We're going to do one at a time, and then we're going to stick to that. One at a time. Over time, 6 months later, you will have walked 3.5 hours a week for 6 months, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have switched out probably 90% of your caloric intake.
Well, we did that. I mean, we slowly stopped buying the foods that we knew were inflammatory or over-processed and not healthy. And so now the foods that we have left are all pretty clean. I mean, there's maybe a few things that we've got in there that like aren't the greatest, but for the most part, we have completely transformed our fridge and pantry and freezer.
So the number one question I get when we start talking about diets, we go down the road a little bit, and the first question I always get is, well, when can I have a cheat meal? Okay, first off, this is your diet and your life. Do you really want to cheat it? Probably not. At the end of the day, really, really strict caloric intake requires a cheat meal because it's exhausting. Operating under the premise that we're going to do one thing a week, one thing a month change-wise, you don't have to have a cheat meal because we're changing the way you operate on a daily basis holistically. We're talking changing all of it. So you're now not standing at the bottom of Mount Everest in your underwear. You're standing down there with the Sherpa and everything else ready to fucking go because we're changing one item. You're prepared to change one item. You're prepared to walk 30 minutes a day. And seek out guidance. I mean, I fucking love to talk about this shit. So does 19 other motherfuckers out there. Find them on the internet. Martell, great resource. You, great resource. Haley, phenomenal resource. We're all here ready to do this and help. That's why we have this fucking podcast.
Yeah.
Reach out. Let's talk about it. Let's walk through this together and build a plan, because asking for help doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing. It just means you need a little bit of guidance to implement the things that you're planning.
Yes.
That is okay.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that Tommy has always said is do boring better. It's boring to eat the same foods over and over. It's boring to eat clean. It's boring to eat lots of veggies and meat that is organic, and it's boring not to go out to eat, but it's also what makes you disciplined and creates consistency in your inputs, which then helps you have more consistent outputs. So like Tommy always says, do boring better. And I think if you can embrace that mindset when it comes to your nutrition and look at food as energy, and calorie literally means energy. So if you look at food as an energy source, not this pleasure source, that's where you're going to be able to start shifting your habits.
And a little bit of pressure is good. Don't run away from pressure. Like, you're the only one that's going to save you. And at the end of the day, the choices you make affect the people you love. They might not be in your life right now. You might not be married. You might be single, sitting at home or listening in the car right now. Somebody loves you. Somebody's paying attention to you. Your dogs even. They need you. This is your way to show them that you love them. Take care of yourself. The only person that can do that.
Well said.
Thanks for listening to Redefining Resilience.
To learn more about building your mental and physical readiness, check out odysseyresilience.org.
And follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok.